At the very outset, it's obvious that from the entire team at Cricbuzz Live, it's a very happy new year to everyone out there and welcome to a brand new year of cricket. And we are starting off with a fixture that, well, often they used to say that if you've got nothing to do over the next weekend, go and play Sri Lanka in a cricket match. And that's exactly what's happening. It's been some 40 years and India have managed to play a game against Sri Lanka in some format or the other every single time. And here we are for the first of 3 T20 internationals. This one coming to you from the Wankhede Stadium. Right here in the studio, it's time to say Happy New Year to Ajay Jadeja and Joy Bhattacharjya.
Happy New Year, sir. Have a healthy New Year.
Happy New Year. Healthy and safe at that New Year. Yeah. Have a healthy and safe New Year.
Yes, let's start by giving you the toss. The all-important toss news. India will be batting first. Obviously, when you come to play T20 cricket or even ODI cricket in India, not always the preferred option because of the possibility of dew, but that's the way the coin fell. Sri Lanka won the toss, asked Hardik Pandya and his men to bat first. So a little bit of an extra challenge for Team India. And interestingly, Ajay, a couple of debutants for India. Just a coincidence that they both happened to play for the captain's franchise.
Who's it? Who's come in?
Shubman Gill and Shivam Mavi making their T20I debuts.
It's always good to be next to the captain, and if you've spent enough time with him, and especially with Shubman, I think he had a fabulous year last year with the GT, and he was the one who really turned that team around. So I'm glad to see him there, and I'm a little surprised to see Mavi there because who've they left out?
Arshdeep Singh.
Arshdeep Singh has been rested.
Yeah, but just pushed aside for the moment, shall we say?
Yeah, I mean, it actually sometimes makes you wonder because, any kid, at least for myself, I can say is when you're 20, 25, all you want to do is play cricket and as much cricket as you can get. And this young man's done exceptionally well. He came in last year in that England series, bowled that 1 over and impressed everybody. From there on, it's almost been in and out. And he had an injury to start with. And then I hope it's not an injury and, he's just been rested. But why would a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old young man want to be rested in a game where he's had a week off, 10 days off? He's had he's probably partied hard in the New Year's. I don't know whether these guys do
the exact words, just to clarify there from the captain, was that Arshdeep wasn't available, which means, Joy, it could possibly be an injury. Otherwise, we were speculating that if Mavi's making his debut, it could be for either Umran Malik not wanting the express pace or Harshal Patel.
Absolutely. I think that's it. Arshdeep, if he's available, should be picked. I'm glad. I'd be happier if, he's actually got a niggle or something that he's not playing. Otherwise, I think he would feel very hard done by not playing today. Of course, there's enough bowling out there. And look, it just joins the assembly line of fast bowlers that we have for India in the last 2.5 years. There have been so many of them that, it also shows you the amount of talent India is another thing. But sometimes the changes leave you a bit bewildered. At the pace at which it happens or the reasons for which it happens leaves you quite bewildered once in a while.
Well, have a look at that. Bowlers who have been notable misses and note the next line through non-injury. Today, of course, Arshdeep Singh, we're assuming that since they've said unavailable, but all these players, Ajay, that you've had down the list for certain key games, we've all dropped our jaws saying, okay, why is he not playing? The latest of them, I think, being Kuldeep Yadav recently, and it was not the first time for him.
Yeah, that's been the case. Those numbers tell you the story, how they've thought. And, what surprises you is that, normally it's always be, selectors on one side. They probably think in an X and Y or Z should be playing. They don't give you a player. Captains and coaches have their favorites. And not from today, I think from ever and ever since this game started. Captains always believe in some players. But what we've seen in the last year is that it's gone beyond that. It's the captain and coach who've picked a certain players out of the blue. They brought him in, even in that World Cup. And then when the crucial time came, they themselves actually have left them out as well at times. So it's been a little confusing. What's the word Joyda used? Bewildering?
Bewildering. Absolutely bewildering.
So, that's been the kind of year last year. Leave the cricket aside. But the way we've had players come in and out, it surprised me more because if the selectors drop somebody or the captains don't pick and play the guy at all, I can understand. But in this case, it's always been either the management have got somebody they wanted and then didn't play them, or the selectors have just, kept giving you so much talent available, as he says, the whole assembly line's ready. But the problem is there's no train running on that line, only a line that's come.
I just watched a movie on OTT day before yesterday, which was full of malapropisms, where they were sort of trying to exaggerate a point and therefore bring a completely wrong word in. And when you started saying bewildering,
Was that grass onion?
Yes, it was.
It was grass onion. It had to be grass onion, of course.
Bewilderwitching was the word I was thinking of.
Bewilderwitching, yes.
You could just add and coin a word. But coming to the serious side of this, the recommendations made from the recent BCCI meeting have been some pretty serious ones, notably the yo-yo test coming back into the limelight.
Okay, I have a very simple thing. There's a BCCI, okay, which is a board for control.
I always get worried when Joy
Oh, yeah, when Joy does that.
Okay, their job is to run cricket in India. Whose job is to select players? Selection committee? Who is the Indian selection committee right now? So, I mean, I assume DEXA test, the yo-yo, a team of 20 people is there to select players. So, if the decision to select players is part of the selection committee's job, okay, it's not to select 11 because that's the coach and the captain's job. If they are not deciding these conditions or this pool of players, then why do we have a selection committee? What are they doing? If that is the case, and we've been hearing now that 20 players are going to be selected, they're going to have 20 players, a pool of 20 players.
But at the moment, we're trying to select a selection committee.
Correct. And now, if you've given the selection committee a pool of 20 players, and you're giving the captain and coach the decision to say, this is your 11, what exactly does the selection committee have to do then? So, I don't understand. So, my only thing is that none of these are bad suggestions. But we have a simple rule in any good management institution. Where does the buck stop? If the buck for selection of the Indian team stops with the selection committee, then get them in place first before making such momentous decisions. That's all we ask. Right now, a BCCI committee is taking a decision on something which the selection committee should be taking a decision on. And if they don't buy into it, then what? I mean, who's taking the calls?
Then they don't come in, Joyda. The selection committee will have to buy into this.
In which case, why have a selection committee? Then might as well have BCCI captain and coach.
What surprised me is that, if there's going to be a yo-yo test, our captain's probably going to be in trouble. The first man, they're talking about some fat content and 10% beyond that. I mean, I don't know, maybe he's looking a little chubbier on the screen. But, there'll be a lot of players who probably won't get through that. And this is not the first time we've had this yo-yo test. Many years ago, there was a conversation, there was a discussion. I think when things go wrong, you got to find something to douse the fire. And this is one of those statements that came out. I look at it that way. Because this sport is a skill game. Yes, fitness has taken it to another level. But just being fit is not good enough. I mean, you got to have skills. I mean, might as well, Ravichandran Ashwin probably will struggle. I mean, he's one of your finest match winners of this country forever and ever. Anil Kumble in his time would have probably not gone through fitness tests. So, I mean, it's something that's come. We'll wait and see. It's a statement that's come out. And there isn't a selection committee as far as I know. I don't know if there's any new news that's come out.
Right now, the selection committee for the selection committee is in operation.
Yeah, well, there you go. Lots to be discussed on that. We can talk about the pool of players, the 20 players, the yo-yo tests, as well as resting certain players. They're being asked to, franchises are wanting to look after bowlers. So that's going to be a long discussion to go forward with. But we want your opinion on this as well. And we've had so many questions coming in related to this. We thought we'd pick something that's on the periphery. Hashtag Ask Cricbuzz Live. And this is the question that we have from Ankan Mishra, who says, it has been reported that BCCI will request, not instruct, IPL franchises to manage certain players' wear and tear. How feasible is it to implement a workload management policy in a tournament with such financial stakes? It's a discussion point we've had a few times, Ajay, on the show, where we've said that, okay, one is, of course, workload management. The other is wanting a person to play just because you think they're up for national selection. So both sides of it. How much of it can this be dictated? Because the franchise can say, listen, we want to win a tournament.
Look, I mean, even coming back to the franchise thing, I mean, how do you like with the Indian team? If there may be an instruction goes from BCCI, I can understand. Where does it go? Does it go to the coach who's going to run that team? Half the coaches that you have in India are from other parts of the world. Why would they listen to you? One. Two, who's the captain of that side? Whether he wants to listen to your instruction or not is also because they are not under BCCI. So it's a request in some form, or maybe if they go straight to the owners probably are the strongest people in that side. But I don't think, you can expect a coach who runs a South African team or an English team or an Australian team to worry about Indian cricket. Why would they listen to you and not try and win the games that they've been hired for? It's their profession. It's their livelihood. So I doubt that they're going to be listening to you if it's directly gone to them. And coming to the workload management, I think at the end of the day, the player himself is the key to this. He will know whether his body is taking it, not taking it. Does he want rest, doesn't want rest? You cannot be dictating, rest or workload management to a young man who wanted to do this thing all his life. He spent 5, 10, 12, 15 years, depending on how old he is, to get to this stage. This is all that he wants to do in life. This is all that he knows. Very few of us are actually probably equipped to do something else in their lives till a certain age. And there will be a time in a couple of years or 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line for different players where they will never be able to play this sport again at this level again. So workload management is a very nice statement. It comes from management. Management also of whether it's Indian team management or foreign team manager, when coaches, something goes wrong, they bring in this. I doubt that the players, if he's fit, if he's got no niggle, why would he want to be rested? He doesn't want to be kept in that cotton wool. Few years, 5 years down the line, what is Jasprit Bumrah going to do? What he's done in the 2 years, and look at great players in the past. I'll give you an example. Say Kapil Paji is the greatest. His birthday is coming, so great man to talk about. He's got 432, right, or 434. 200 were in the first 5 years, first 3 years or first 4 years. Obviously, any human being will only get slower, whether it's in athletic world, he will get slower and he won't be as effective as he was. So if you hold him and keep him in cotton wool when he's at his peak, you are actually not just wasting his time, but you're wasting the time that he could give to your team.
Yeah, well, on the subject
I have that point of view, which is totally different from the rest of the world, because there is a time that you can play this sport. And anybody who's played sport, any sport, and when they get to our age, that's when you realize, I wish I'd played more. I wish I could have done this. Because you certainly can't do certain things.
That's why we've put you in the chair. If your opinion was the same as everybody else.
No, it's not about the opinion. I'm saying, and I'm an odd one out here, because I believe most people now believe in this, that you need to manage work. That player, whether he's a fast bowler, wicket keeper, batsman, he will tell you, oh, yahan dard ho rahi hai, I cannot play. As long as he's keen to play, I think, that's the way to manage it, and not the other way around, where a physio comes and tells you, no, I think he's bowled 4 overs, he should not be bowling anymore. For me, that is total rubbish.
Well, Bumrah is sort of on his way back, not quite immediately into the T20I setup, but being the year of the 50-over World Cup, he comes straight into the ODI squad, which is, I think, good news for him and for India.
I think it's good news. This seems to be our chosen ODI setup for 2023, and I think it's good to focus. You're having all your top players back. All of them are playing this format. See, this is an interesting one, because T20 is a favored format around the world. So we'll have to play a certain number of T20 games, just because any team coming to India or any team India is touring will demand T20 matches. So we'll have to play those many. And we'll obviously have the IPL. But the flavor of the season is different from what is the most popular form of the game. And that's going to be very interesting. I just want to take one more point of what he said. In 2011, we had the same issue when Gambhir had a niggle in the last part of the KKR season, just before going to England. And the thing is, the only thing where cooperation is useful is that BCCI said that all the physios and trainers of the teams, please be in regular touch with the guy in the Indian team. Any slides, any reports that are there, please share it. Makes total sense to me that at least you have a complete medical history of what's going on. That's the only level at which it can be managed. These guys just talking with each other, saying, how is he looking? Is he looking fit? Okay, fantastic. That's all you need to do. Those guys are professionals. They'll talk. They'll know exactly what has to be done. And the physio for the Indian team will know what kind of shape he'll get the player in. That's all he needs to know.
I mean, the only thing, just to counter it in that way is basically you're saying you're not trusting Gautam Gambhir, you're trusting the physio at that time and saying Gambhir might still want to play, but the physio will be the honest man. If you stop trusting your player, that's the end of everything.
No, I don't distrust my player. My only point is the player is not got the time load to be aware and say that mera report, this is my report, send everything here. Let the guy know what's
Paperwork,
happening.
I guess.
Yeah, that's all.
Well, one person who, unfortunately, I mean, we've all been wishing everyone a happy new year. Someone who didn't have the happiest start to 2023 was one of our own favourites in the Indian team, Rishabh Pant. And I think that's the saddest news to come out of the end of the year. But just one of those unfortunate things. From a cricketing perspective, it's going to be a huge blow to him, to Indian cricket, for at least a few months, 6 months, if not more.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to see a young man going to lose out on a period of time. But in hindsight, all you got to do is look at it and say, look, something good will come out of it. I hope something good will come out of it. This will probably be the first time that he will have time to sit and think about his game, think about his life, think about what's happening. Because what happens with, most of us is you start off playing at the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, depending on whenever. You just are on this roll. You're just playing cricket day in, day out. You keep getting picked here, there. You're moving from teams to another team, tours. There is never a time to think. And this is probably the first time. And I was talking to Joyda a little earlier and I was saying, it is never good to get injured. And this was probably the worst way to get injured. I mean, for somebody, luckily, he's lucked out and he's safe. But what happens in an injury is that's the first time that when you go to these doctors, who are better human beings and smarter human beings than all of us sportsmen, there is a rehab system that comes. And that's probably the first time a sportsman ever works on something with a system where he says, okay, so many reps today, so many reps tomorrow, I'm going to move forward. And a structure in your life comes in after that injury. So I hope that is the case with this young man because, like you said, I'm the biggest fan of this man. I love this boy. Seen him from, being 19 years old. But I also feel that he's just got stuck where he was 4 years ago. So maybe, because a lot of players after the injury have come out much, much better players and better human beings. So I hope that's the case with him.
One worry for him, Joy. Of course, the accident injuries will heal in time, but it's the ones that are related to cricket specifically, like the ligament tear on his knee. Those are the ones that are maybe a cause for a little more worry.
It's a concern. He'll have to manage. I mean, no player comes back totally healed after injury. It's rare to happen. But he will develop other qualities. And that's what happens, You see a Hardik. When a Hardik went out with his back, permanent problem, he came back with something new in his game. He came back with a new maturity. He came back with better game understanding, which is probably exactly a product of what he's talking about. Having time to think about it. This man, Rishabh has been on a roller coaster since 2016. Absolute roller coaster. 6 years, he's been just traveling probably 250, 260, 270 days a year. Suddenly for 6 months, he'll have a chance to look at life, think about what he's doing and work in a systematic fashion, slow down. And I think it's good for him. It's fantastic. It's also happened at a time where, there is test match, that Australia series is a tragedy that he'll miss, but there's no good time to get injured in Indian cricket. That's the truth.
Yeah. Another good example was...
He's the one who's played the most number of games last year. So he's been
38.
rested.
Exactly. This was ironically the start of his rest period. Yeah, another quick example that comes to mind is the tennis player Thomas Muster, who again, total freak injury in a parking lot, putting a bag into his car. Car came and hit him, legs gone, in a wheelchair, came back a stronger player and was a better player after he came back and started playing.
There's so many cases. Dennis Lilly changes action. Tear away fast bowler, stress fractures, changed everything. Looked at the game very differently because he said, I have only so many balls of aggression in me. How do I use it better? When you have everything, you have everything. When you have limited abilities, then you start focusing, okay, this is what I need to do with this ability.
Well, it's not that we're taking our neighbours from the Paradise Isle for granted, but it's just so many talking points that we focused on that. But it is between India and Sri Lanka. So let's also bring you up to date with Sri Lanka's playing 11. Quick reminder, India, Shivam Mavi and Shubman Gill making their T20I debuts. This is the expected lines of the 11 for Sri Lanka. Some of their key players, particularly from now the LPL and their T20I success. The likes of course, Vanindu Hasaranga, Pathum Nisanka, Apte, Kusal Mendes. So, this has a familiar ring to it for Sri Lanka.
This is what won them the Asia Cup. This is a solid side. Nisanka and Mendes have been giving them starts. They would want a little bit more out of Asalanka in that middle order. They really haven't delivered to the way they have, but they have two, world-class spinners. This is a decent side. It's not a world-beating side, and they haven't beaten too many people consistently, though they won the Asia Cup. But it's a very decent side, and bowling first again is an advantage. Dew won't come in, so their spinners won't be so badly impacted. This is a very decent team. It should be a good contest.
Slight advantage bowling first?
Big advantage, I think, with that Dew that he mentioned about that, and on a good track. Generally, you get good tracks here at Wankhede. So, chasing, and that side, when you look at that side, they've got pretty decent batsmen in there. They may not be big scorers, they don't get big hundreds, but together, they can, knock off any total that you post, unless it's, big one, go past 200, then they probably are in trouble. Otherwise, I think they are at an advantage at the moment.
It's only 60%. I was looking for the numbers for chasing, and I was expecting more, around 75 to 80 almost, but it's 60%. So it means that you can tell yourself, okay, fine, the other 40% were probably won by putting on a decent total. Let's go do that.
Absolutely. And also what happens is 60%, it's normally 70, 80% at the start. Then it sort of moves towards 60%, especially in the IPL, as teams sort of adjust to it. So, yeah, you'll have, but chasing first early in the season, it's still an advantage, I'd say. I'd say large advantage.
Yeah, on quick look at the India playing 11 once again, we briefly mentioned the two debutants at the start of the show. But the other names that were not absolute certainties walking in, Sanju Samson gets in at number 4. Deepak Hooda makes his way in there. Rahul Tripathi missing out. That was probably, Ajay, one name that we were seeing who could possibly have made in. We talked a lot about the missing of Arshdeep Singh, and we forgot about the batters.
Yeah, I mean, you would have had to leave out one of Sanju or Deepak Hooda in case if you wanted to bring in Tripathi, because Ishan Kishan, after that knock, I'm really surprised that he's not playing all formats and, getting an opportunity everywhere. Shubman Gill, captain's, teammate, so he's not going to be left out at the moment. So Tripathi, I'm not too sure whether he would want to open or not. So, and tough to leave out Sanju Samson and Hooda at this stage. Don't forget, Hooda was a man who went to the World Cup. I mean, except for those big names, it was only one man who made it to that side. And it would be unfair to leave him out as well.
Washington Sundar, the only other name in that big squad who misses out there. But I guess once you see the makeup of the side, I guess it's fair and square for him.
Yeah, Washington is a big. I mean, I wanted Washington Sundar there because I really feel that he and Akshar Patel, when they both play, they give you that sort of cushion at 6, 7, 8 which you need when the batsman up front can go harder. That whole all-round balance. You don't want just 6 batsmen and 5 bowlers because that's difficult for the team. And I think if you want to go for 200, you want a little bit more batting at the end so that players can take more chances up front. So I would have liked to see Washington Sundar here. Unfortunately, they haven't had place for him. But it will be interesting to see. This is not, these are well-matched sides. This is not a walkover by any chance. And as the toss has already contributed to swinging slightly more Sri Lanka's way than it should normally.
Well, once again, Sri Lanka winning the toss. India will bat first. How much can they put on? How much should they really put on if they want to win the game? Between could and should, we'll find a fine line between that and get a quick prediction.
Should. 212.
187.
Oh, right in between. 199. 199. Let's just slot in between. That's where we think it could be could, it could be should. But that's all we have right here on Cricbuzz Live. We'll see you soon, halfway through this first innings, where India will be batting in the 10th over on Cricbuzz Combox. For now, from the three of us, once again, Happy New Year, and we'll see you soon.